She's on a mushroom seat. The mycelium system wrapped about earth, infusing the earth with arrows through the soils and plants. The plants grow rich with life force. The animals vibrate with nourishment. From her own nervous system and through her, she sends down the needed frequencies, and through the mushroom draws up the smog of the world. It transforms into an electric psychedelic vision that lights the palace. Her face is in constant transformation of all the faces of those who encounter her. She holds an implement in each of her 11 arms, keeping one hand on her pearl to control the frequency. Around her are 10 emanations of woman also sitting on mushrooms, morphing into images of terror and delight. This is the celestial temple of Venus. The temple is circular on this floor with walls of glass light that refract into rainbows, as light refracts a crystal. The rainbows have a sentience and dance through the room, both to clarify the energies and to uplift. They're like breath that inhales the pollutants and exhales them out to the forest of redwood trees of fractal light. Big, honorable trees that pledge fidelity to her for her seeing of and tending to their silent but integral quality. They form the pillars of reality. She bows to them as kings. In this celestial world, there's a reversal. She, a deity, serves the trees, the animals, the oceans as nobility, and the gods as patience. She prostrates before the squirrels of seamless illumination and the men she employed to feed them. Men she drew up the line of her roots from the ghettos and prisons of the world. The men emptied of the pride of gods, who could and would see and feel with their own animal nature. Men who would be capable of intimacy. She had a small Spartan cave in the illusory realm, purchased by the merit of her virginal vision and love. She lacked preconception, and while this was her earthly downfall, it was her celestial currency. She loved indiscriminately, giving her body, heart, mind, soul, spirit to any who asked, took, requested, seduced, courted. She knew no other way. She suffered the consumption by the hungry. The men who would from on high sneak into her down low to get the food the high women refused to produce. The women who starved themselves to demonstrate their superiority. She knew herself to be the jewel. If they saw darkness, it was that the deep color of emerald or ruby was not illuminated because their eyes did not shine. If they were dazzled, she'd know they were seeing their own light reflected back. She was homeless and feral. She could wear robes of both brocade and the red silk of the courtesan, but she opted to remain naked. She would take on the ways of those she encountered, but stripped down upon departure. Naked in forests and urban jungles alike until she was magnetized by king or bandit, novice or master. She lacked the preference for light and upward directions that permeated. In the darkness was the depth, the power, the secret. She did not know who or what it was that bestowed this palace on her. But as she was one to do, she got to work immediately designing. She'd hitchhiked through the realms with shaman, lamas, priests and rabbis, tricksters and gangbangers. She'd shuttled through the mortal coil past the infinite mandalas and Buddha fields, where the inhabitants each tends to believe their aims and practices superior to the others. She, though, even with her newfound wealth, liked to be on the bottom, on her back, invisible as a power, the way her network of mycelium living off the decay was. And yet she knew always who she was, beyond metrics, that she might be invisible, discounted, hated, rejected, broke her heart for those who could not see, that she would be revered or anointed would be ceremonies she would endure for the enjoyment of those who needed still to project, that any and all felt the need to teach, control, direct, or protect her from herself, she knew to be their fear of intimacy. Only by avoiding the direct contact of her eye could they continue to, although they considered it a generous offering, look down on her. And yet she awoke in this place. Blood transformed to electricity, lightning in one of her 10 hands and thunder in the next. Her ferocity would clap the forces into attention and lightning strike them into clarity, that the senses might be freed to smell the violet in one of her hands, the most ephemeral scent and the most expensive in that it delights and passes at once. The scent itself was how she trained her forces to appreciate the gift that cannot be grasped. She would have a simple price for entry. No prostrations, no scripture, no service, no downcast eyes, no merit, no vows, no confession, no rosaries, no duty. That's what you do in order to perhaps clear the vision so that you can see her. And when you see her, you need to do the one thing that eludes most: be nice. Tell the truth without anger, vulnerably, and without any agenda other than to meet souls to soul, heart to heart. And there's nothing you can do to meet her. The only offering she will accept is your heart. She wants you free, even from what freed you, even from her. Your blessing is not that she will give to you, although she might, but that she will receive from you. She will take from you what you nobly and not so nobly ignored in order to be good, to be of benefit, to not harm. She makes you a promise. She cannot be harmed other than the virtuous and non-virtuous harm you cause yourself. Your violence, your rage, your desire, obsession, jealousy, confusion, and delusion are the smog the forest of her womb will transform into the oxygen of life force. You can tell yourself that you are doing her a service, that you are helping her, and she will smile to herself if she likes you, if you can be nice to her. She will take from you. She will draw out the cellular hatred you've covered in light, the 1 million heartbreaks to never admitted to in the line of duty, the heart you've only let emit light. She will shatter into 1,000 pieces that become shards of a mirror, reflecting back you, acting out what virtue denied you. Honor with her morphing bodies and faces until you know the intimacy of the slap, the union of the thief and the one stolen from, the villain and the victim. She will fill the separation between with sweet orgasm until you can be all three at once in a seamless dance. She does not know if it's because she was not meritorious enough, too undomesticated, or if it was out of respect for her love of anonymity, or perhaps because you need to be this tall to ride her ride in there, but be a high, or in this case, low barrier to entry. But the realm gifted to her is on a cliff between ocean and forest behind the curtain of karma. No one lives there. No one gets there by accident. And there are red lights that warn of unseemly things like the districts and the material, or sirens on the narrow road to entry. The facade is something like a brothel or saloon, and having just trekked through the heavenly realms, the angelic spheres, to get here, one must be directed only by the red thread. There is no location on the map, and one is likely to assume they either made a wrong turn and turn back, in which case she knows that their psyches might not be prepared for the shattering of mind upon contact with the undifferentiated. Unruly works with no traffic stops or signs, or driven by a greed she will happily repurpose, she's lured them into her army. She favors the violent and the greedy as they cannot hide their face. It was her first night in her new place. The 1,000 wings of light with the rumble of warped sound that signify a crossing over carried her into the room and seated her on her toadstool throne. She felt her own wings sprout like ravens and her own voice become multi-layered. She sat directly in front of a door on low. No one entered. And then behind, to her right, arose Yan, a shaman she once met and thought did not like her in dutiful service. Maya rose as attendant. A Tibetan teacher she'd only seen and never met surprised her by entering as if he were at an art opening and absolutely fascinated by an art he'd never witnessed. Her friend's Changwol's head floated like a disembodied balloon, laughing. She remained in the exchange of frequencies with the nervous system of the earth. From her 10 breasts, each with a liquid from milk to honey, melted butter to whiskey, she would inject through the mushroom what was needed to saturate the barren earth. Several came by, but she mentally blocked entry and sent them to the trees to have the superiority and pride absorbed with the narcissism of their belief systems. She heard the moan of an old friend in another realm, a high man who had been kind to her nonetheless. She told him once, although she doubted he knew what she meant, that she did not need his, she had her own. That her realm had been destroyed, but she was not one to fail. She would rebuild. Due to circumstance, the only face his vision permitted was one of helping her. She did not know how to tell him the generous king, that she was wealthy beyond imagination. The deer and the beetles, the harlots and the thugs, the corn stalks and the petunias were all hers because she appreciated them. Those were those who hated her, would exile or banish her. His moan was audible beyond what she could deny. She was unsure of his protocol. She'd stepped on them by accident before, and it quite hurt. Like the spikes that flatten tires, they did not appreciate her lusty, obsessive ways in those realms, and she most certainly did not want to make him uncomfortable. Her breasts overflowing, her 10 free arms reaching for him, she opened her mouth, and out came the dimensional sound that should he want to respond, he would hear, and should he want to ignore, he could. He was brought in on a stretcher as the entire realm turned blue to match his blue face and blue shirt. Her female attendants placed him on an operating table of light. She did not know why, but she repeated again and again to him, "You are safe, you are safe, you are safe." And then went to work on his scarcely beating heart. The way one rips open a shirt, she ripped open his chest and flesh. She peeled them back to give his organs room to open and breathe. She pulled open the organs themselves, also made of fractals of light. As she did, she saw images like birds fly out. She moved quickly and with care to cool him. She turned a rheostat in the air until she came into the perfect cooling frequency, the intimacy of two that he denied in order to carry all to the promised lands he had to date delivered all on his pilgrimage to. A better Sherpa you would not find. She transmitted to him to take her medicine that had been banned by both spirit and human. "You can see me now," she said to him. "I am in need of nothing. I want only to offer what is lacking from my bounty. Yes, I am nothing but love for you, but my only desire is to do what I do. To fill you with life, to empty you of decay, to tend to you as I do the pigeons and the wild ones." He allowed, and the light dimmed, a breath exhaled, the duty released. The room turned to deep, rich, infinite jeweled light. The light so dense that you could pull it down and wear it as a gem. A low drum was heard throughout her realm, like a heartbeat retuning, now steady, now strong. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," she repeated to him for allowing. A bow she could not offer a king, she could offer to the man who lay there receiving her life. She knew from whence this palace came. She did not speak because she knew now both who and why. She signaled to him that life would be different now, and to recognize that he's just had open heart surgery, but that his kindness would allow the masses to receive the same. With dignity, she fell asleep by his side. She woke inside a dream where there were 2 other women in his bed. She crawled in on the other side, and they left. He wrapped his arm around her, not in tenderness so much as chivalry. She woke inside a second dream where he was checking into the same hotel, and with the greatest formality, as if he'd never seen her before, he informed her that he had business in this hotel and did not know how long he'd be there. In the third, they were both catching the same flight, but he would not walk with her through the airport. "It's okay if you do not want to acknowledge me," she spoke silently when she awoke. "I know why. I will not reveal any secrets. Even that you've met me here."